Isn't it strange that the very thing we fear most is the only thing we can depend on? Everything will fall apart. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it is alive. Isn't it peculiar that what we love most is already dissolving in our hands? The mountain, majestic and eternal in our eyes, is nothing more than a slow avalanche of stone, weathered by wind and softened by rain. The river that seems to run forever is constantly rewriting its own path, carving valleys, abandoning its former course, as if it were no more than a forgotten dream. Even the body you inhabit, this intimate garment of skin and bone, is in a constant state of surrender. Cells die, breath rises and falls, hair grays, bones weaken. What you call you is a continuous falling apart. And yet, we sweep, we polish, we repair, we patch the walls of our homes, repaint the cracks, fight the wrinkles in our skin, preserve photographs as if they could hold still the river of time. We work tirelessly to keep things together, to keep them from slipping through the cracks of impermanence. But deep down, we know it is a hopeless task. The universe is not a structure built to last. It is a process. Fluid, restless, alive. Look at the ruins of old civilizations. Marble temples now kissed by moss. Palaces, once filled with laughter, now echo only with the wind. These are not failures of time, but the poetry of time itself. The crumbling is the beauty. For if the marble had not softened, if the palaces had not fallen, we would never know the quiet elegance of ruins, never sense the humility of stone returning to earth. The same is true for our lives. You remember moments? Moments of joy, of love, of sorrow, and you try to hold them. But moments are butterflies. The tighter you close your hand, the quicker their wings are crushed. What made them beautiful was their fleetingness, the fact that they could never be pinned down. Every kiss, every sunrise, every word spoken between two lovers is destined to vanish, and that is why it matters. If it were permanent, it would lose its sweetness. So when I say that everything will fall apart, I do not mean it as a curse, but as a revelation. It is the very crumbling that makes life vivid. Without death, life would be stagnant. Without endings, beginnings would lose their magic. Without the breaking of the wave, the sea would be motionless and dull. The crack, the fracture, the erosion, these are not intrusions upon life. They are life itself. The great mistake is to imagine that falling apart is something we must prevent, resist, or mourn. We imagine permanence as safety, and impermanence as danger. But permanence would be death, a frozen universe, unmoving, untouched, lifeless. To live is to break, to shift, to dissolve. Your laughter today is not the same as yesterday's. Your tears tomorrow will not be the same as the ones you shed now. And thank God for that. Do not be afraid of the dust. Dust is what allows the seed to take root. Do not be afraid of decay. Decay is the secret nourishment of growth. Every wall that crumbles becomes the ground for flowers. Every fallen leaf is the soil of the forest yet to come. When you stop sweeping away the dust, when you stop cursing the cracks in the wall, you begin to see that the universe has been painting with this brush all along. And so, everything will fall apart. The mountain will be ground down. The river will carve new paths. The body will grow frail and fade. But in the falling apart, something is revealed. The dance of constant renewal, the great recycling of existence, the endless rhythm of life feeding on life. Nothing is wasted, nothing truly lost. What seems like ruin is simply transformation in disguise. This is the secret beauty of crumbling. It is not destruction, but metamorphosis. The breaking of the old makes way for the birth of the new. And if you can see it this way, then every crack in the wall, every wrinkle on your skin, every fading moment becomes a doorway, a reminder that life is not about clinging to permanence, but about marveling at impermanence. From the moment we arrive in this world, we are trained to grasp. We are told to take hold of life, to plan it, shape it, and master it. We build schedules, draw maps, set goals, and carve out identities as though existence were a piece of clay in our hands, waiting to be molded according to our will. And yet, the more tightly we cling, the more obvious it becomes that life is not clay at all, but water. Try to seize it, and it slips through your fingers. Try to imprison it, and it evaporates into air. We imagine that by controlling things, we will be safe. That if we can lock the doors, save enough money, maintain perfect health, and keep love from leaving, then life will not betray us. But has it ever really worked? Have you ever noticed how plans collapse? How carefully constructed towers fall with a single gust of wind? You wanted permanence, but permanence is not in the vocabulary of life. Everything is movement. Everything is flux. And yet we resist this truth with all our might. We clutch at relationships, hoping they will last forever. We build empires of wealth, as though bricks and coins could shield us from impermanence. We wear masks, play roles, and build reputations, as though identity were something fixed and unshakable. But sooner or later, every mask slips, every role dissolves, every reputation fades into the indifference of time. The illusion of control shatters, and in that shattering, we glimpse reality. Consider the ocean. A sailor may chart a course, set his sails, and imagine he commands the sea. But no matter how precise the map, no matter how strong the vessel, the ocean has its own rhythms. It shifts and swells, it calms and storms, according to forces that no hand can govern. The sailor does not control the sea, he dances with it. And life is no different. To imagine you control it is like telling the tide when to rise. Think of your breath. You may hold it for a moment, you may slow it, you may quicken it, but eventually, it breathes itself. Even when you are asleep, it continues without your command. The heart beats without asking permission. The blood flows without your decree. Life moves through you as a river flows through a valley, indifferent to your notions of mastery. And isn't it astonishing that the very body you believe belongs to you does not even obey you entirely? Still, we are frightened by this. To admit we do not control life feels like defeat. We cling all the harder, imagining that grasping will bring certainty. But what if control is not safety at all? What if control is the very source of our suffering? The tighter the fist, the greater the pain. The greater the resistance, the deeper the fear. It is not life that torments us, but our insistence on taming what cannot be tamed. When we finally loosen our grip, something miraculous happens. We discover that life was never waiting to be controlled. It was waiting to be trusted. Like a dancer in the arms of a partner, you are carried when you stop resisting the rhythm. Like a leaf in the current, you are guided when you surrender to the flow. And in this surrender, you do not lose yourself. On the contrary, you find yourself, the self that is vast, open, and inseparable from the dance of the universe. The illusion of control was always a child's game, a beautiful attempt to make sense of the wildness of existence. But once you see through it, you realize there is nothing to fear. Life does not need your control to unfold. It unfolds as it always has, with or without your interference. And when you let it, When you release the obsession with holding everything together, you step into a freedom so vast, so unshakable, that even the crumbling of worlds cannot disturb it. Everything unravels. This is not a misfortune, but a rhythm, not a tragedy, but a song. The candle burns down to wax and wick. The flame dances brightly, only because it consumes itself. The flower blooms, radiant for a season, only to wither into soil. The music swells and fades into silence. And yet the silence is what makes the melody possible at all. We look upon disintegration as an enemy, but perhaps it is the most faithful companion we have. For it is disintegration that keeps the world alive. Think of autumn. The trees release their leaves as though sighing, as though letting go were the most natural thing in the world. They do not cling, they do not mourn. The falling leaf twirls in the wind like a dancer, bowing at the end of a performance. And in that descent, in that quiet return to earth, it becomes nourishment for the roots that will one day draw it back into life. The very act of falling apart is the prelude to rebirth. This is the dance of disintegration, the endless cycle of arising and dissolving. The stars themselves burn for billions of years, only to collapse into silence or explode into brilliant supernovas. And yet from their ashes, new stars are born, new worlds are forged, new life begins to stir. If the stars did not die, we would not be here to wonder at them. Even the universe, vast and incomprehensible, lives by this rhythm of expansion and collapse. We human beings, however, struggle to see the beauty of this. We mourn endings, resist change, and cling to the fragments of what was. A friendship ends, and we ache. A love fades, and we break. A chapter closes, and we long to turn the page back. But the truth is, it is precisely this disintegration that allows for the freshness of life. Without endings, nothing new could emerge. Without silence, no music could be heard. Without night, the morning would lose its wonder. To watch something fall apart is to witness the artistry of time. The crack in the old wooden table tells a story of years, of meals shared, of hands rested upon its surface. The weathered stone speaks of storms endured. Even your own wrinkles are not mistakes, but calligraphy written by laughter, sorrow, and countless passing days. This breaking down, this weathering, is not the undoing of beauty, but the deepening of it. And notice, the unraveling always carries a rhythm. The wave crashes, only to retreat and rise again. The tide pulls back, only to return. There is a choreography here, a great invisible dancer, moving everything in step. To see disintegration is not to see loss but movement. A swirling, spiraling motion where nothing is wasted and nothing truly ends. The ashes of yesterday are the soil of tomorrow. We may imagine ourselves apart from this, as though our lives were somehow exceptions. But even within us, the dance continues. Old cells die so that new ones may grow. Thoughts fade so that others may arise. Each breath you take is a little death and a little rebirth. The exhale a letting go, the inhale a welcoming. And when the final breath leaves, it too is part of the same rhythm. The dancer bows, the music ends, but the silence that follows is not absence. It is the stage awaiting another performance. So, let it unravel. Let things break, dissolve, and scatter. For disintegration is not the opposite of life, but the very movement of life itself. To resist it is to step out of the dance, stiff and frightened, while the music continues without you. But to surrender, to sway with the rhythm of endings and beginnings, is to discover a harmony that has always been playing. Nothing you have loved is ever lost. It only changes costume, changes form, steps back into the wings to prepare for a new entrance. And if you can see this, if you can watch the leaf fall, the flame die, the wave collapse, and still feel the pulse of the dance, then you will know disintegration is not destruction. It is creation in disguise. It is the music of life written in the language of impermanence. Imagine, just for a moment, that everything you cling to were to vanish. The titles you wear, the possessions you treasure, the roles you play, the names you answer to, all stripped away, like leaves blown off by a sudden wind. At first, the thought terrifies us. We imagine ourselves naked, exposed, defenseless in the ruins of what once defined us. But if you stay with that image a little longer, something unexpected begins to stir. You notice how light you feel without the weight of carrying it all. You notice that what you feared as loss is, in truth, liberation. For the collapse reveals something astonishing, that you were never those things in the first place. The house that falls, the relationship that fades, the career that crumbles, they were never you. They were garments you wore for a while, characters you played upon the stage. And when the stage itself collapses, you discover that you were never the actor, nor the costume, but the space in which the entire play unfolded. That space does not break. That space does not end. We are conditioned to build walls, to erect fortresses of security around ourselves. We seek control, permanence, protection. But every fortress eventually falls. Every wall eventually cracks. And when it does, we are given the gift we never knew we needed. The chance to step beyond the prison we mistook for safety. The collapse opens the door. It frees us from the endless labor of defending what was never meant to last. Think of the forest after a fire. At first glance, it appears destroyed, blackened, reduced to ash. Yet within that very ash lies the fertility of rebirth. Seeds germinate, nourished by what was burned. Life returns, fresher and wilder than before. The fire's destruction was also its cleansing. So it is with us the collapse, though painful, clears the ground for something truer, freer, less burdened by illusion. And perhaps this is why so many of our greatest awakenings come in moments of loss. When a dream falls apart, when a love slips away, when everything you thought you were is torn to pieces. What remains is a silence, a spaciousness, a clarity you could never have reached while clutching at the old. In that silence, you begin to taste a freedom beyond possession, beyond identity, beyond the fragile scaffolding of control. You taste yourself not as the mask, but as the vastness behind it. It is a paradox. The very thing we resist is the source of our liberation. We resist collapse because we believe it will kill us. But in truth, it kills only the illusions. It kills the false self we were exhausting ourselves to protect. It kills the story we mistook for life. And in the ashes of that death, something more authentic emerges. You find you no longer need to hold so tightly, because there was never anything to hold. You were the sky, not the storm. So when collapse comes, and it will, in one form or another, do not see it only as ruin. See it as release. See it as the crumbling of chains, the falling away of masks, the dissolving of burdens that kept you from breathing freely. What is left after the fall is not nothingness, but the naked truth of your being. And that truth is untouchable. It does not depend on possessions, on approval, on permanence. It cannot be shattered, for it was never built. It simply is. This is the strange gift of collapse. It takes from you everything you thought you could not live without. And in return, it gives you the realization that you were never living by them at all. You are freer than you imagined, freer than the walls you built, freer than the stories you told, freer even than the person you believed yourself to be. Collapse strips away the fiction, and what remains is freedom, vast, quiet, and unbreakable. There is a secret that life whispers in the moments when everything seems to crumble, a truth so subtle that we often miss it while we are busy lamenting what has been lost. The secret is this: falling apart is not an enemy, but a gift. Though it feels like ruin, it is in fact a revelation. When the walls of your certainty collapse, when the ground beneath your plans gives way, when the carefully constructed house of who you thought you were comes undone, it is then that life finally has room to move. We think we are betrayed when things dissolve. A relationship ends, and we feel abandoned. A dream fails, and we call it misfortune. The body weakens, and we take it as a punishment. But what if these dissolutions are not life's cruelty, but its generosity? What if the breaking apart is how life opens doors we would never otherwise step through? Sometimes we must be shaken from our illusions, stripped of our comforts, torn from our attachments, so that we may discover a truth too vast to fit into the fragile boxes we built for it. Consider the chrysalis. To the caterpillar, it must feel like the end of everything. Its old form dissolves, its body turns to liquid. What could be more like death than this? And yet within that collapse, wings are forming. The falling apart is not destruction, it is transformation. Without it, the butterfly could never be born. And so too with us, every time life dissolves what we thought we could not live without, it is only preparing wings we cannot yet imagine. There is a peculiar beauty in endings. The sunset is beautiful not despite the fact that it fades, but because it fades. Its impermanence is what fills the sky with fire, what stirs our hearts as we watch it fall into darkness. A song that never ended would lose its charm. A flower that never wilted would cease to enchant. The gift of falling apart is that it reveals the sacredness of each fleeting thing. It teaches us to bow in gratitude for what was, even as it vanishes. And yet the gift goes deeper still. For when all that is temporary falls away, what remains is the timeless. When the masks and stories and possessions dissolve, you discover that there is something within you that does not dissolve. Something beyond beginnings and endings, beyond winning and losing, beyond gain and loss. That unshakable presence, that silent awareness, was hidden beneath the clutter all along. Falling apart is how it comes into view. But this is not a gift you can receive while clinging. If you treat collapse as a thief, you will only feel robbed. If you see it as failure, you will only feel ashamed. To see the gift, you must let it fall. You must allow the ruin to complete its work, the mask to fully break, the tower to crumble into dust. Then, and only then, will you see that the dust itself is fertile, that what seemed like devastation was only the soil for a deeper blossoming. So when life begins to unravel, do not rush to repair it. Do not scramble to glue the pieces back together. Sit with the unraveling. Watch the pieces fall. Listen to the silence that comes after the shattering. Within that silence, you may hear a new melody, faint but steady, the song of a self that does not fear the fall, because it was never bound by the pieces to begin with. Everything will fall apart. And yet in that falling, nothing essential is lost. The gift is that life strips away everything false, everything fragile, everything temporary, until only truth remains. The gift is that you discover, often through tears, that you are not the crumbling form, but the spaciousness in which it crumbles. The gift is that you awaken to freedom, not because you avoided collapse, but because collapse revealed that you were free all along. Everything will fall apart. Yes, but listen carefully. When it does, you will find that nothing essential was ever lost. What you are cannot be broken, cannot decay, cannot be held in time. Only the illusion falls apart, and what remains is the truth.